All right, hello, yes, hi. Good morning. So we're gonna keep this nice and short, all right? Um, oh gosh, when the train of thought leaves the station. Okay, so I did another functional medicine detox last week. Not like the one in May, because the one in May was like 3 weeks long, and this one was only 1 week, kind of like a maintenance kind of thing. Because I started to slip back into like old dietary patterns, and I started reintroducing more gluten and dairy consistently, and I started to notice more mucus coming back, more my and then a little bit of the asthma, and some maybe like the starting signs of like the eczema again, or maybe that's just all in my head. We'll see. That I never really talked about in full, which would be a long video. So not today. Owls. So I want to get going here. So I just want to say that this detox required me to cut out all of the. I try not to eat a bunch of processed foods anyway, but it required me to cut out a lot of the things that I like to eat, like snacks and stuff, and nut butters and nuts and rice cakes and literally everything. I love those kind bars, protein bars, whatever. Couldn't have like vinegar, couldn't have like, I love balsamic vinegar, but anyway, it felt like a very long time. I mean, it's all the stuff that I eat anyway. It's like nutritional shake, protein shake type of things, plant-based, protein-based, with a lot of like fortified vitamins, minerals, other nutrients, antioxidants, things like that. And that with, again, essentially pretty much the stuff I already eat. Like my carbs were coming mostly just from vegetables, berries, and sweet potatoes. Japanese sweet potato. It's gonna change your life if you haven't had it. So, let me say, after a week of not having that stuff, and let me tell you, it really teaches me how to empathize with like clients and stuff. When you tell someone to like change their diet, I just want like my bun cut off here. Oh, like that. Oh. When you tell someone to change their diet and you're not changing yours, I mean that's, if it's not necessary for you to change your diet, then it's not necessary. But for this case, it was just for the week. And I remember thinking back in May when it was 3 weeks long, I was like, oh my God, like, now I see how really, like, because I've changed my diet before, obviously, like, I've gone through all of that. I've been on all sides of the spectrum. I've been really, really, really underweight, and I've been 20 or so pounds more overweight, all throughout my life. And so I've obviously changed my diet several times in life. And even after that, not even in terms of like necessarily calories and amounts, but quality of food. Which when I did my first functional medicine detox in functional medicine nutrition, I want to say functional nutrition detox in May, that really got me more on a holistic type of kick. I don't want to say kick, but transitioned me into more of a holistic, more holistic choices, I suppose, because I lived on like artificial sweeteners, sugar-free this, fat-free that. I was very aesthetic focused. I was very like calorie conscious, like in the regard that it's like I would opt for sugar-free barbecue sauce rather than regular barbecue sauce, right? Or something like that. But on a large scale, because I used a lot, especially my protein shakes, Splenda, you know what I'm saying? So I kind of like, ever since I did that and I switched to mostly plant-based protein and stuff, my digestion, cut out all the mostly artificial sweeteners with the occasional now stevia packet or monk fruit, something like that. Overall, my digestion and all that eliminates has been so much smoother. I digress. Not that you need to know that. We'll talk about that another day. But this was more of a conversation because a lot of the time fact. Oh shit. I almost spilled my coffee. I need to stop talking with my hands. Okay. We're gonna put that over there. Fact is, consuming processed and like ultra processed and hyperpalatable foods makes you crave more ultra processed and hyperpalatable foods. You know what I'm saying? That's what they're designed for. Things that are like super sweet, super salty, super savory, all of those, the combination of all of those makes you crave more of that, right? High fat, high sugar, in particular, that combination. Now, sidebar, when you look at food that's in nature, you have things that are high in fat. You got your avocados, you got your nuts, you got your olives and oils and whatnot, and then you have things that are high in carbohydrates, like your potatoes and your fruits and whatever, and then you got things that are high in protein, like your protein sources and your meats and X, Y, and Z. Then you have your combination type of foods, which you'll have like beans and legumes, like they have more carbs and they have protein, but like where in nature? And this is not my idea, it's not a novel concept, so this is just a known fact that we don't really think about. What in nature has the combination of high fat, high carb, and, you know, to take that one step further, high sugar, high fat, and then let's just add sodium into the mix, because that combination is super hyper palatable. It drives you to consume more. You know, the whole like Lay's chips, you can't just eat one. There's a reason you can't just eat one. And that reason is because they are chemically engineered that way. So I took, when I was in my undergrad for dietetics, we had to take food science classes, right? In my food science class, I learned that there is something called the bliss point. And I'm pretty sure it's called the bliss point. Either way, the concept remains the same. They have flavor chemists, like food chemists, who actually design foods to be just enough sweetness, just enough salty, just enough savory, just enough whatever. This perfect combination of like hyperpalatability. And when I say hyperpalatable, I mean like a food that's palatable is like appetizing, it's appeasing, it's like it's not appeasing, it's pleasing, it's appetizing, it's gonna drive you to want more. So when you have these palatable foods, and now you add like sugar and salt and fat into the mix, it's hyper palatable. So you're gonna crave it, you're gonna want it, you're gonna eat it, and then you're gonna crave it more. Am I saying that these are inherently terrible, off limits? And no, like you'll have some people, some coaches, some whatever, who say like, I don't eat any of that at all ever. And personally, I believe in more of a balanced approach where I don't want to be like the cliche of like, oh, you have 80% of whole foods and then you can toy with your 20%. But it makes sense. So I strive for mostly all the whole foods, and if I can find a better version of something that I used to eat in the past, like the Splenda, I'll use like the stevia or like the monk fruit, but like in far less quantities, because I'm trying to retrain my palate, and I have to crave less sweet things. We'll talk about that another day, and I always say that, but there's a point in my life where I was just hyper palatable all the time, and I made this like snack mix, which was like, we'll go there another time. It was like crack. Anyway, so when you now remove that from your diet, let's say for a week, you're still going to crave it after a week. Like a week is really not enough. 2 weeks, you're starting to be like, all right, like I could take it. Like I want it, I kind of want it, but that drive, that urge, that craving is not as strong. After like 2 weeks, and of course this is all dependent upon the individual, but after like 2 weeks or so, you start to not really have that craving for it anymore. And I say you in general, but like it could be specific. It's all individual. But in general, like after a few weeks, you're just like, I could take it or leave it. And then it's not even like, so then when you do have something that is hyperpalatable, it's really gonna light up like the dopamine and whoa, like your brain's like, holy, that's really sweet, or that's delicious, because you've just not been eating anything that has been processed or hyperpalatable. I'm gonna stop using that word, hyperpalatable. I keep cutting off my bun. I should probably prop this camera up a little bit more. We're gonna try this. Let's try this. Okay. No, still kind of the same. Anyway, so after this week, it also was a good reminder as to why I will never do any sort of fitness competition, because even a week of feeling restricted, wow, my bun is still cut off. What is this? Not that it matters, but like, it kind of bothers me. I'll never do a fitness competition, because even a week of feeling like restricted, and this is stuff that I even already eat, but like just restricted from like other things that I like just the concept of being restricted makes me want it more. Human nature, right? Yeah, no. And like my energy was super low. I was in like a little bit of a deficit, not enough to lose too much weight in a week, but just because everything that, like a lot of my major fat sources, I love nuts and just dried fruit stuff, and I can't really do the avocado right now because it's really high in histamines, and we'll talk about that another day. And I don't really like olive oil, but I had to make do, so I used olive oil and stuff to get my fats, or I just got like a fattier cut of like organic chicken or something. Anyway, much ado about nothing. It's not about nothing. This is important. The day after it ended, that was Monday, I had access to a few cookies, and I was gonna take them home. I was gonna give one to my mom, and a Blondie to my mom. I was gonna keep the cookies on hand, because sometimes, like I said, I believe in balance, and there are times where I'm just like, oh, I really want something sweet, salty, fatty, you know what I'm saying? But I'm trying not to make a habit of it. In fact, I am not making a habit of it like I used to in the past. Not as far as cookies, but just like hyperpalatable and then fake things like the substitute things like the protein cookies and protein bars and whatever. Not that protein bars are bad, but like I used to live on those, especially in college. I used to live on those. Ever since I cut those out also, like my digestion has been like much better. So there are different kinds of the bars and whatnot, but like ingredients matter. And once you haven't had them for a long time, like Quest bars, oh, they're good, but they will, the next day, all the fiber and whatever. So, anyway, I digress again. I had access to those cookies, and I wasn't gonna restrict myself. I was like, I really want something like this after that week. And so, I wasn't gonna restrict myself from it, because I knew that if I restricted myself from it when I wanted it, I was gonna probably go a little crazy later on, like later down the road, maybe another week or so. If I have more access to it, I'm gonna be like, oh my God, I need this now. Not that I need it, but I wanted it. Here's the thing. The food choices that you make, you don't have to be ashamed of it. there's no right, wrong. There's no good, bad. There is what are your goals, what's going to suit your goals, suit you, and what are you willing, what other consequences or effects of that food are you willing to tolerate? Whether that's GI distress, whether that's weight gain, whether that, what brain fog, whatever, like what are you willing to tolerate? And in there's no morality with food, okay? So I had the intention of maybe just like picking at like maybe one of the cookies, half a cookie. I ended up eating all 3 cookies. And these were pretty sizable, like cookies. They were so good though. And the blondie that I was gonna give my mom, but I justified it because it had walnuts in it and she doesn't like nuts. So I was like, she won't eat it anyway. She don't want that. In the moment I knew what I was doing. And I'll be honest, I wasn't even sitting down to enjoy it. I was standing in my kitchen at my counter with all the crumbs. It's sort of embarrassing to talk about because like nobody wants to be perceived as this like animal rummaging through their kitchen, but like the reality is when you have been restricted from food or feeling deprived, like rummaging up to the kitchen and just like everything. Now it wasn't like that kind of binge or whatever. It wasn't a binge. I don't consider it a binge. I just consider it deprivation driven eating. And in the past, I would have been like really angry at myself, and I would have shat on myself. But I understand where it's coming from, and I know it's not something I do often, as far as the cookies go. And compassion, forgiveness, just objectively observing my behavior, and I'm just like, all right, so that happened. Let's just not do it again, right? But there's the other side that people will shame themselves, they'll berate themselves, and they will hate themselves into trying to clean that up after and overdo the exercise. Now there is something to say about energy balance, and then maybe like, it just depends on your goals. I won't go into that today, but doing an extra walk or whatever. We're not gonna go into that today. But I wanted to clean up my diet the next day, not coming from a place of, I need to undo this damage, or I am, I don't know, repent for it, or like I need to be strict again now so I can whatever. It came primarily from a place of, I woke up the next morning feeling like shit, and I know that was directly associated with the amount of sugar and refined carbohydrate and fats that I ate the night prior as I was squirreling through the cookies. So I'm giving you the image of a squirrel kind of just like with its little nut, like, you know what I'm saying? So that's exactly how it looked. Squirrel. Anyway, yeah. I was coming from a place of like wanting to get, I don't want to say back on track, but like just kind of reset the next day, because my digestion the next morning was awful. I felt tired. I felt like I had brain fog. I was just like, I felt nauseous for the first 3/4 of the day. Didn't really want to eat anything. Like, now I'm not saying that that's going to happen to everybody. Just saying that happened to me this past Monday night. And when I had to wake up and go teach my cycle class on Tuesday morning, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. But we did it. We did it. because the show must go on. But yeah, so the point being, I'm coming from a place of I want to clean up the diet the next day. I want to be better about that, be more on top of it, because I want to feel good again. Not because I am a piece of shit that went way off the rails and had no willpower and no restraint and went on like a cookie binge, and so I have to punish myself and restrict myself. It was coming from a place of like, I felt awful and I don't want to feel awful again. So when you get to that point, that is coming from a place of not only self-compassion, but like actual self-love. And I hate saying that word because it's such a buzzword, self-love, you know? So woo, like all of the softness, like whatever. Like there are times where it seems like I'm really soft here, and there are times that's like tough love. But that is really an act of, I think the better word would be an act of self-care. Because the whole thing was kind of self-care. Like in the moment, I was trying to nurture and nourish my mind and my body, because I was trying to not nourish it, I was trying to honor it, because that's what I really wanted to eat. But then on the flip side, self-care and having my best interests at heart would have looked like allowing myself a cookie, maybe two, and knowing that's what I wanted in the moment, but not going overboard, because nothing to do with like, oh, this is terrible food, but knowing how I was going to feel the next day and how that would just affect everything. So if you're coming from a place, if you personally, if you're watching this, or if someone you know, you're coming from a place of trying to restrict types of foods or trying to abstain from types of foods, coming from a place of like hating yourself, your body, like I can't eat that because X, Y, and Z, that'll make you a bad person. You'll be off your diet, you have no willpower, it'll trigger a binge, whatever. Instead of resisting the pull that food has on you, it's calling your name, but you're resisting. Come from a place of, I'm caring for myself because I know, like I'm doing what's best for myself because I know that I could eat that. It's not off limits to me. I could, but I'm choosing not to, because I know that I'm gonna feel awful the next day. And I know I'm not gonna have good energy, and I know I'm not gonna have clarity of mind, and I know that I'm just going to feel not my best. Or if you want it, eat it, but own the decision. You know, don't guilt yourself after it. Don't pile shame on top of your whatever. Don't pile yourself in shame, bury yourself in shame. If you choose to do it, just own it. Take responsibility for it. I know that this may not have been the best decision for me, but I chose to do it anyway. That's what I have to tell myself. Or, it's not that I can't have this, but I am choosing not to. And if you want to take that a step further, I am choosing not to because X, Y, Z. All right? All right. I said this is going to be short. It's 24 or 5 minutes. All right. Cheers. Owl mug. Coffee. Gym time.